Hey, welcome to London360, the news feature show that keeps you in the know about everything that's been happening in the capital. You can catch us here weekly, or you can watch the show anytime and get involved online at communitychannel.org/London360. Now don't go anywhere, because we've got a great lineup of stories, from the personal accounts of those dealing with Islamophobia to sports up-and-coming stars on their journey to success. The European refugee crisis is never far from the news and is something we have covered in previous features. From the Calais Aid Network to the Refugees Welcome March, Suna Yokes travelled to East Dulwich to find out how the Bike Project can provide a lifeline to those who need it the most.
Refugees, welcome here! Refugees, welcome here!
Over 700,000 migrants are said to have made their way across the Mediterranean to Europe in 2015, sparking a crisis as countries struggle to cope with the influx. Eurostat statistics show that over 500,000 refugees have been granted asylum, but not all of those arriving in the UK are as fortunate.
The kind of vitriol that is being spewed against people who happen to be poor, happen to be in a situation of conflict and desperation and moving, it's quite disgusting. And I think we need to hope that should Britain ever be in a scenario where there's war again in this country, which is a virtual certainty because that's the way history goes, that other people are not so bigoted and not so horrible and don't think, hey, those British swarms, they can't come here. Not everyone in the British public is such an idiot and so ignorant and so hateful that they swallow that propaganda. And that's what we're seeing. People have gone to Calais, people have put up refugees welcome here, and really, pursuing a kind of genuinely humanitarian agenda towards people that are in situations of conflict.
One initiative that is reaching out to refugees is the Bike Project, a charity based in East Dulwich with a simple mission: to get refugees cycling and in turn improve their livelihoods. With the average refugee in England receiving £36 a week from the government, the Bike Project services have never been more necessary.
When I was at university, I started mentoring a refugee. He's from Darfur. He was 16 when he came here without his family or anything, and he was an asylum seeker, so he wasn't allowed to work. One of the big challenges he faced was getting anywhere, and the bike was really the first step into normal living for him, because all of a sudden he could access education, healthcare, psychological support, based communities that would help him integrate into British society. Every year in London, 27,000 bikes are abandoned and around 20,000 asylum seekers arrive in the UK. My vision was to match the two. In 2.5 years, we've given away over 1,000 bikes to refugees. We have our own workshop, which is behind us.
It's a really good way for people who don't necessarily have a chance to interact with refugees or asylum seekers, or people from different countries and cultures, and people that want to just learn some bike mechanics themselves. Anyone can come down.
I come from Ivory Coast in West Africa. I came in London since 2005. They're treating people with dignity and respect. There is peace and love.
What do you think are the biggest struggles that you faced in your country before you came here?
I'm a politician, and if I'm going back to my country with the civil war that happened to my country right now, I will face persecution. When I first came here, I didn't know even how to use the spanner, how to fix a bike, and how to change some wheel, and I love it. I love this project.
When we first started, most people that got a bike from us were men, and when we dug a little deeper, we realised that because asylum-seeking women tend to come from patriarchal societies where it wasn't socially acceptable for them to learn to cycle.
One refugee was happy to share her experiences of the project, but requested to remain anonymous.
I've lived in London for 6 years. I wasn't very confident to cycle on a road here. I've never cycled in London, and it is very scary. We are trying to do a long ride so that we know how to be safe on road, what's the rules and regulations. So it's very, very helpful. Nobody can live with £35 a week, and especially when they give you a voucher, which is you can go only to a certain shops. I know women, they've been in this situation for 15 years, and they don't know if their situation is ever going to change. Coming here, meeting new people, they're nice to us, and they're doing something which makes a difference. It gives us a hope that not everybody is the same. There are people in this country that they care. We need to see some changes, and we need to see people receiving their visas. One day maybe, things will be different.
According to Tell Mama, an organisation that supports victims of anti-Muslim hate, 60% of Londoners who experienced Islamophobia in the last year were women. Farhat Saede has the story.
In today's day and age, you don't expect people to still react like that over religion or the colour of someone's skin or who they choose to love. Hate is a poison, really. And the only way to get rid of it is just to love each other and move on.
According to the Met Police, Islamophobic crime has risen by 70% in London, with statistics showing a recorded number of 816 attacks in the past year. Huda is a British Muslim living in London. She's been on the receiving end of an Islamophobic attack on a journey she makes home every day.
I was on the bus with my friend and there was a man on the bus and he asked us both, why do you wear the hijab? Like my headscarf, my friend, she said to be modest. Somebody said to him, I think you should stop. He said, you'll remember me when they eventually bomb you or kill you because that's what they do. And he was saying they're just terrorists. If I was the leader of the world, I'd round you guys all up and bomb you in one go. He said, we're like evil or just completely different and I'm like the same to other people, so it just doesn't make sense to me.
MEND is a non-profit organisation that tackles the rise of Islamophobia across the UK.
At the moment, from our data, it shows that women are more vulnerable and the types of attacks that they're facing, mainly verbal abuse, but also physical abuse, whether it's their niqab being pulled or their hijab being pulled to victimize them, whether it's on the train, on the bus. So it's not your typical right-wing, neo-Nazi person. It's ordinary people. And this is what's worrying, that it's been normalized so much, this hatred against Muslims has been normalised so much that ordinary people are doing it. So the impact on Londoners is huge at the moment.
Brought up in northwest London, fashion student Borega is a proud Londoner, but at times feels like an outsider.
I've heard incidences where people have been either harassed or, about the scarf or about the way they dressed, but I never honestly assumed that it would happen to me. I was waiting for another train at a platform, and as the train rolled in, the doors opened, a man stepped out, and just as I was going in, he nudged me, like really hard. My folder fell, I fell, and this other man caught me as I was falling. I was still in shock. The man that had caught me started having a physical fight with the guy who pushed me. And I'm like, it's okay, it was an accident. And then I heard the guy who pushed me saying, dirty effing Muslim.
Every time you have a terrorist incident, you see generally a hike in anti-Muslim hatred and violence against Muslims. If a Muslim individual is attacked, it could be my brother, my cousin, your colleague or friend. So we all are affected. But more importantly, do we really want to live in a society where other fellow Londoners, who are as Londoner as anybody else, feel under siege simply because of a specific belief they have or because they dress in a certain way? So for the sake of our values, for the sake of our identity, for the sake of what makes London fit and best in the world, we need to stand up and speak against all kind of hatred.
London is one of the most diverse cities in the world. It's the only home I've ever known. If you can't be different here, in this city that I love, that I've grown up in, there's not a lot of places where you can be different really in the world. The more people are open to the idea that change or something different isn't bad and isn't evil, but can actually lead to good experiences, the more we grow as people and as human beings, and the more we learn to tolerate each other.
Here at London360, we love to give people a platform to have a say about their great city. So we invite you to send us your stories, points of view, or even passionate rants. Nadia Mahmood from Lewisham shares her story about dealing with one of the most common mental health problems, anxiety.
Anxiety is a feeling of worry, unease and fear. It is the #1 health problem in the UK. A recent survey showed that out of 2,300 people, 1/5 of adults will suffer from anxiety, and those 1/5 of adults will do nothing about it. Anxiety can make you feel hopeless, stressed, alone, shy.
One tip that I would say is try to get out and exercise. A nice long walk or even a short run, riding your bike. One other thing, probably the most important thing I would say is breathing. So if you start to feel anxious, just take some space, give yourself a moment and take a few deep breaths, and your body will listen and know that you're okay, and it will start to come down.
Coming up after the break, we'll be finding out about life on the infamous Angeltown estate and how dogs ruled the roost on the red carpet. Welcome back to part 2 of London 360, the only show that gives you real stories from London's hidden communities. The annual Collars and Coats Ball, hosted by Battersea Dogs and Cats Home, returned for a spectacular night of entertainment and glamour. The fundraiser brought together some of the biggest names to support the charity's work. Fred Batt checked out the tucks and tails on the red carpet.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog, you're crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. Well, you ain't never caught a rabbit and you ain't no friend of mine.
Me and my pal Molly are off to the Collars and Coats event, where the biggest stars in London are turning up in support of the Battersea Dogs and Cats Home.
This is a big opportunity for us to make a lot of money in one evening, and also to get together with some of our very best friends, teach them a lot more about how Battersea works, and to bring our dogs out for a great night out. Look at the red carpet, it's just full of Battersea dogs. Tonight is all about the magic of Battersea.
Seeing the work that Battersea do and the money that they need to keep everything going with all the changes that are happening and all the work that they do as far as, you know, getting the dogs fit and healthy, because some of them come in such a poor state. There'll be some dogs here, just met some of them, that's just so lovely. You just know that hopefully in a week or two they'll be going to their home, you know.
And do you think you'll be taking a dog home tonight?
Oh, my husband's told me I'm not allowed to take a dog, but I fell in love with Becky, the little puppy.
Hi Becky, are you excited for tonight? Thank you very much, Becky, that was wonderful.
I love these evenings. We really, you know, this is the high point of the year, and we really do enjoy it. There's something about dogs, I think it's the unconditional love. They are wonderful. And I've learnt a lot about reading their body language, and there's so much that they say to us that we don't listen to, and not impose our feelings. Oh look, he's smiling, he's happy. Actually, he may well be stressed. His tail's wagging, he's happy. Well, his tail could wag when he's stressed and when he's happy, so read it.
Do you have any pets at the moment?
Yes, we have 6 horses, 6 donkeys, we have 2 dogs.
Well, actually 6 horses, 6 donkeys?
Yeah.
Do you live in London?
No.
Okay, that makes more sense.
It's a very important cause. And also, I just like being here. I mean, among people who love.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Both dogs?
I have both. Do you? I have 2 cats.
So surely the cat feels a bit neglected, you saying dog?
No, 2 cats, 2 dogs. They get on very well. The dogs get on they all love, it's a big love-in. They love each other. They're having a great time.
Dogs, cats, I know you're a cat now.
Well, I'm a dog and cat, but I just currently have a little cat called Montgomery.
I'm definitely a cat person, but I love cats. But also I really appreciate what Battersea Dogs and Cats Home is doing, because they've just recently completed a £7 or £8 million project to build new kennels for about 30 different dogs, plus a new veterinary clinic and a new reception area. And it's extraordinary. They've been going for over 125 years, and they're saving thousands of cats and dogs every year.
And it costs something like £18 million a year to run. And you know what really annoys me? There's all this breeding of special breeds of dogs, and people are paying a fortune, £2,000, £3,000 for a dog. And there's all these abandoned dogs, and it just is horrific. And it has to stop.
And if you look at some of the dogs that are on, the red carpet tonight, their tails are wagging, their faces are smiling. All they really want is a home.
How does it feel to live in one of the most deprived, crime-ridden areas in the country? Rishi Persaud visited Angel Town in Brixton to uncover one man's story about life on the estate, which may surprise you.
Angel Town has been under the spotlight in recent months for all the wrong reasons. I'm meeting with one of its residents today to find out his experience on this notorious Brixton suburb.
Angel Town starts from here. If you turn down Loughborough Road and you go down, there's like 3 roads that go into Angel Town, and it's basically just an intersection of 5 different roads over the span of like about 5 yards, but it goes quite deep into an estate. But yeah, it starts here.
Take a look.
Yeah.
25-year-old Rico, who suffers from psychosis, allowed me a unique insight into his take on Angel Town life.
So this is the beginning of Angel Town. The majority of people that are involved in gang crime or like that that kind of give Angeltown this bad reputation have grown up here, which is actually really sad because they're part of the community.
Would you say you yourself feel part of this community?
I feel in two ways very part of it and very isolated from it.
In what way do you feel isolated?
Mostly my dress sense, the way I dress. It kind of targets me for a lot of abuse that I would get walking through the estate.
Rico was clear about the struggles he's faced on Angeltown, along with his feelings on openly expressing his sexuality. Is there a level of intimidation that you feel then, Rico?
Yeah, every single time I leave my house, there'll be a huge group of young men outside my apartment block, and I have to walk past them to get to the bus stop. And what I usually do is I put in my headphones and speed walk past them, but occasionally I still do get called aside, and we'll have to pretend that I don't hear them. And a lot of the time when I don't hear them, they'll leave me alone, but some of the time they don't. This is Angeltown, and that's Loughborough Estate. I actually experienced a lot more aggression towards me for the way I dress and the way I am in Loughborough Estate. I mean, I used to leave my house, and the people from Loughborough Estate and Angeltown don't like each other either, so there's that aspect of it as well. I mean, even if you cross the...
So this is the border?
That's the border, yeah. That's the line.
And so if you were to go over there, it would be trouble?
It would be trouble.
Obviously you identify as being gay. How do you find that experience in Angeltown? Is it something people are aware of? Is it something...
It's something I almost wear, in a way. In an area like this, it's something I wear because, in my experience from growing up in black culture, if you don't dress a certain way, which is very much sportswear orientated, they already perceive you as being gay. So when you are gay, they kind of target you even more, especially in areas like this where the ethnic community is dominated by the same kind of culture.
On the issue of psychosis, Rico discussed its impact on him and the need for better support in similar communities.
I first had my first psychotic break that didn't go away 2 years ago. At the point where I decided to accept that they weren't going to go away is the point where they got better. It's almost like the volume got turned down so I could concentrate on other things. There's such a plethora of things wrong because Angeltown's such a loud estate and because the noises on the estate aren't pleasant ones, like kids firing fireworks at each other and kids screaming. The more anxious, the more paranoid you feel with day-to-day communities and people's mentality, but also people's health and people's mental health that I think are completely overlooked. We look at what needs to be targeted because it kills people, but what I think is worse is what people live with every day and makes their life 10 times more difficult than it should be.
Whilst Brixton has in recent years gained a name for being an up-and-coming part of London, the story of Rico and Angeltown offers a stark reminder into the work still needed to be done to support troubled communities.
We often hear about red carpet events in showbiz and entertainment, but what about for sport? Suna Yokes went to the Sports Aid charity ball to find out about the challenges for up-and-coming athletes and how they overcome them.
London has a black tie dinner virtually every night of the year. The sports ball's different.
Here at the Sports Ball on Park Lane, the UK's finest athletes are coming together in support of Sports Aid, a charity which helps the country's brightest prospects to make their dreams of success a reality.
Well, Sports Aid was created in 1976 and it has a unique role to focus on helping the next generation of talented athletes. These are guys where Bank of Mum and Dad are their only sponsors and they've been recognised with having huge potential. And Sports Aid's role is to back them and give them that opportunity to realise it. And you've got a chance to compete against them. So tonight we'll have some wheelchair basketball 3v3, we've got some curling, we've got some table tennis, we've got some shadow boxing going on. So you're immersed in the reason you're here. It's all about sport and it's all about young people.
I've really been helped by Sports Aid from a really young age, probably about 13, 14, I've probably been first affected, and that was through another charity called GLL, because Sports Aid run GLL. They run Crystal Palace, and I trained there. So being funded by them has been a great help. Their money was able to get me to competitions and to buy kit and stuff like that. Probably the biggest challenge is either staying fit, staying focused, or being able to balance school, whatever sport you choose, and all other life's pressures.
We see the challenges and issues that young athletes face on a daily basis. Their number one barrier in progressing in their sport is access to cash and resources.
Sports Aid's latest survey shows that the average annual cost of their sport has risen to more than £6,000. A typical Sports Aid athlete spends at least 15 hours a week in training sessions, travelling over 150 miles to get to them. During the charity's Ones to Watch Awards presented by Olympic champions Victoria Pendleton and Sir Stephen Redgrave, the nominees were able to reflect on the impact SportsAid has had on their journey so far.
The calibre of athletes who have been selected is amazing, and obviously have gone on to achieve what I dreamed to achieve in a couple of years' time. For my hard work to be seen by SportsAid and appreciated, it gives me all the motivation I need to get up early in the mornings and train on the cold, dark nights as well. It makes it slightly harder being up in Scotland because obviously most of the competitions that I take part in are down in England with the GB trials. I did 4 competitions, I have to drive down and get the plane as well. So to have that fun, it makes a huge difference.
Will you welcome onto the stage, please, James Arnott.
All my work's been looked at over the past couple of years. It's just amazing really to see. I'm in the period of changing from junior to senior now, so that's a really big step up for me. So racing against people my age, now racing against people who are 20 plus years old, I think that's the biggest challenge for me, but I'm just trying to remain level-headed.
How important is London as a sporting city, do you think?
It's amazing. It's the heart for England. It's the heart of sport. It's the heart for rugby, football, even athletics. I'm a disability runner, and to see the recognition that that's got just from the London 2012 Olympics. I was just sat at home watching the anniversary games. At this point I was kind of doing running, but I wasn't too sure whether to make up my mind. I don't want people to look back at their lives and say, oh, I wish I had the chance to do this. I'm doing what I'm doing now, so people don't get to that chance and they're like, oh, I wish I did this, I wish I did that. But they see me and they say, okay, because of him or because of her, I'm going to do this. And then they just achieve their dreams. Like, that's my ultimate goal. That's the big picture for me.
What SportsAid's role is to keep the focus on that next generation, so we don't forget about them and just think about today, we think about tomorrow too.
That's it for this week's episode. We hope you enjoyed the show. To find out more information about any of the stories featured or to send in suggestions you may have for future episodes, head to communitychannel.org/London360. If you want to stay up to date with what goes on behind the scenes here, be sure to join in on the conversation and follow us on Twitter at London_360. Remember, keep it 360.